Hi, I'm James Oviedo with ATC, Always Thinking Community. And today I wanted to share that I've been really reflecting lately on redefining revelation as not a sudden event that occurs in your life, but a process that unfolds in order for you to be able to uncover wisdom and purpose in your life. It's not an easy thing to do, and it really doesn't matter what stage of your life you are. It's never too late to be awakened to this fact that we're not taking a full account or assessment or reflection on how we're living and how we can make those changes in our life for the better. I think the concept of what I would call relevant revelation in your own life is upheld by three pillars, I would say, starting with the revelation of enough. See, you come to this point in your life, and usually the latter years, this is why we learn the wisdom and the purpose of our life. And that is that we're moving from a mindset of accumulation to a mindset of appreciation. And we're appreciating that which is already present in our lives. And we've all heard the cliche, well, nothing better than your health. And there's so much truth to that. But there's some other factors that connect up with your health as well. You know, the kinds of food that you eat, the exercise that you do. How do you frame your life in order to offer you the best opportunity to succeed in living a better life? The other part of revelation would be revelation of resilience. Now, this is recognizing how your past experiences have actually provided the strength that's needed for current life transitions. Maybe something you're going through right now, maybe something you've gone through in the past that you can reflect on and really see how much you grew from that experience. And certainly for things that you will go through, right? That's life. We are all going to go through some challenges in our life. Knowing that we have a journey that's filled our life with exercising resilience helps us to face that next encounter. That doesn't mean it's going to be pleasant. It doesn't mean that we should go skipping and being excited that we're going to be in a little suffering at times. But at least having your eyes wide open, along with your mind and heart in a coherent way that you're really understanding these things beyond emotion, but not leaving out your intellect either, just managing both in such a way to make those necessary changes. That's resilience. The third pillar, I would say, is as in your latter years, you discover the what I would call the revelation of curated legacy. What I mean by that is you begin to identify how you can be intentional in sharing your story, your narratives, your values, and your wisdom with others. Because I think we've all been there where it's like, ah, man, I wish somebody would have told me that sooner. I would have changed. So get in there and play it forward and help someone else who may be having a challenging time navigating through a difficult situation. You might be that ounce of wisdom that they need at the right time to help put them back in the purpose of their journey. So legacy is very important. And I would say, how do we get to those places and accomplish managing our resilience, managing our our ideology of having enough, and looking at what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? Well, it's about focus and growth actions. So your focus is what you obviously pay attention to, and what you pay attention to is how what's going to affect your affections, your emotions, your attitudes, and therefore connected to your behaviors. Therefore, what you focus on will begin to become a part of you, and you will begin to walk in what it is that you've created in your mind as a focus, and you will grow in that area. And that's not necessarily bad if you have a good focus and a good growth action plan. But if you don't, some things that can help us recognize at any age is time. And now time, if you work an 8-hour day, you have approximately 480 minutes in a day to accomplish your work. If you work 9 or 10 or 12 hours or even overtime, obviously that's going to increase more. And that's subtracted from how many minutes you actually have in one day. We all have the same. 1,440 minutes in one day. So, depending on how much time you spend on work or video games or whatever it is, that's subtracted time that you're taking out and you're involved in something. And the more you're involved in something, that's kind of the way you'll grow. So you should be looking to make good use of your time because we all have a limited amount of it. And no matter what age you're at, you're not guaranteed that your expiration date isn't going to pop up like that. We all have that. And that's nothing to be scared of. I think that should really excite us because with time, we really need to move from a mindset of running out and shift better off to a mindset of filling up. We shouldn't be living our life in an installment plan, watching the clock tick by, just kind of waiting to die. I see that in some of my colleagues as I age, and I just can't relate to that lifestyle or the wait till you get to this age kind of thing. You'll see it's like, I plan to provide myself with the best resources possible, both in food and supplements and exercise, and what I put in my head and in my heart in order to live a purpose-filled life for me. So I can't relate because when I talk to them, it's sad. I don't see purpose. I see they've given up. I see that they really don't care what they put in their mouth or they're not interested in exercise, even like just easy, slow walk or something. I mean, I'm a fanatic about exercise and diet, but you don't have to be that way, but it works for me. This is part of how I frame my life. So what I do with my time is I know that I am trying to fill it up with all possible good things that can make my experience currently one of clarity and being able to be positive and being able to absorb and observe and to do better with my life. And I do this by making sure every day that I have quiet moments to myself. Um, I exercise not just my body, but also my mind and making sure that I'm grounded in what I believe, in what my core values are, which, for me is peace, clarity, and freedom. I need to look at my life and how I address others. Is it affecting those areas positively or negatively? And what do I need to do to adjust to keep my peace, my clarity, and my freedom on my journey? But that's what works for me. And I can share some more things that I do, gosh, from 4 o'clock in the morning all the way till 9, 10 o'clock at night in between running our business. So you need to really take that time to stay grounded and to make sure we only have a certain amount of time. And then we move into our identity. Now, this is about redefining self beyond your career, what your career is, or what your career is going to be, or what it was. You're more than just a job and a paycheck. And it's also about redefining yourself beyond your role in the family, your role as in a business, or whatever that may be. But you can actually change the role that you've designed, or actually people have helped design for you. When you show up, this is what they expect you to look like. Like there's times I like dressing up like a cowboy, and I do wear a hat like my hats, but there's sometimes that I don't. And it's interesting that people that know me with the cowboy hat cannot recognize me or hardly can recognize me when I don't wear the cowboy hat. See, that's such a lesson for me because their identity of what they see of me isn't who I totally am. It's a part of what they see in a personality, and find that fascinating because some people will get so locked in and dialed into what others have created and expect you to show up that they begin to live that role. Please don't do that. There is time for you to still redefine the person that others have created for you up to this point. You need to question why maybe you procrastinate or why you're insecure or why you want the gold star. These are things that are developed early on in our childhood. And again, I've explained before, the triangle psychologically is how we make friends, how we look at safety, and the bottom triangle is how do we experience reward. Now, for me, I didn't have the greatest upbringing, and I'm thankful for what I did receive from my parents of blessed memory, but I didn't have the greatest upbringing or lived in the greatest neighborhood. So it wasn't safe for me at home. And when I left the home to go to school, it wasn't safe for me to walk from home to school because I had to contend with bullies on the way to school. And then at school, I had to contend with bullies as well. So my view of how to create friends, I was very suspect of who really your friends are. So I was very careful on my friendships. But I was also careful to keep myself safe. So early on, I corrected my bully problem by going direct to threat. Now that worked for me. It's not something I'm saying this works for everybody, but where I grew up, it was necessary for me to cut the problem off at its source. And that, of course, created other problems. And that's for another time, another story. But the way that I viewed safety is going to be different than someone who grew up in a beautiful suburban community and there's no problems over there. People leave their doors open and their vehicles unlocked and all that stuff. I didn't grow up in that kind of neighborhood. So I had a different awareness to safety and creating friendships, which again, that shaped me to have a military career in special operations and be in federal, local, state law enforcement, do undercover and SWAT and all that stuff. And my flexibility in my personality helped me to ride through some challenging, difficult situations. And then reward. I determined, and again, a bit egotistical at first as a child, I couldn't depend on adults and I didn't trust them to tell me I did good. I can figure that out on my own. And as I did that, I recognized I didn't want the gold star or the appreciation from people because it always felt like somehow they were manipulating me for or into something. And a sad way to live, but it also served me from situations where I otherwise could have become enslaved to somebody else's narrative of my life. So that's how I viewed addressing that part of the journey. Again, how I looked at making friends, how I handled safety, and how I looked at reward in my life. So important aspects in your identity, as you grow, I've managed to change a lot of things in my life that have helped me because those things no longer serve the person that I've created. And I keep evolving and looking to deconstruct things that you build up that you go, "Oh, that doesn't serve me." What serves my family, my friends, my circle, the world, and at the same time helps me to grow, to be better in my own life journey. And that requires the third pillar I would call moving away from your identity, right? We talked about time, identity. Now we move into what I would say connection. Now, fostering deep, meaningful interactions with other human beings. This is important. Now, I know that I said, right, I was careful of friendships. It didn't mean I didn't have any. It means they were special to me. And I had to find people I could trust and journey with. And that helped me to be a better judge of character, of people's intentions, and also look at myself and what I wanted out of life. But I learned that by actually interacting with others. Most of the time, I had some really great mentors in adults. And I would guess I was like an old soul, is what I've been often referred to. And and I still am in the sense that I look for knowledge in those that have it. And usually I'm going to find it in someone that's older. And it's sad because it doesn't mean because you're older that you're a sage and you've reached that. It used to be that way, but I think it's gotten less and less in our society. But I've been fortunate to find people along the way to help me in my growth and inspire me to continue to help others as well. So interactions with other is important because this helps you to share a specific lesson learned with a peer or sometimes a mentor or someone you're mentoring. So this is critical because this unpacking and unloading your revelation is going to help someone look at that information as relevant. That's why I say revelation is important, but it has to be relevant. It has to be revelation that has meaning to you and something that you can have a growth action plan to. So it's critical to be able to share some of these things with others. Now, it's important that as you go on your journey, you allow each day some time for personal reflection. I'm up by 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's my reflection, and it goes into my workout time and all that stuff. But I need that time in order to frame my journey for that day. As I said, it's so important to ask yourself every day, how did you show up today? Who are you? What's your identity today? And is it consistent from what your revelation has been showing you? And so the personal reflection helps you develop that internal listening. You really need to pay attention that are you listening to the external voices out there screaming and streaming ads and YouTube and Instagram and your favorite podcast moment or whatever? Or are you pausing to just listen to the silence and stop the screams and the commercials and the infomercials and people telling you how to live life and do this and do that? And are you pausing to hit that reset and look inside internally to hear that internal voice letting you know that you're on the right track, that you're paying attention to your revelation? I'm going to close by saying this. Revelation is a gift, and what I like to call the gift of the third act. If you know anything about plays or theater or even movies or books, the third act is where everything comes together, man. The third act, you're all going to get there, you know? So I encourage those that are young and listening to this to understand that you could be 20, 25, 40, 45, you could be 60, 65. There's still time for you to change the script of your act to make it be what you need it and want it to be in your growth. Now, I understand our journeys are all different and some are real challenging and difficult, but there's still time for you to look at the revelations that you haven't paid attention to, that you've just looked as irrelevant experiences, but looking at them with different eyes and saying, you know what, these revelations were relevant and I need to take them and learn from them because I'm in my third act. And in your third act, you get to write in how this story goes. And how much of that time have you spent in others rewriting your script and you had no part in it other than the role they designed for you? That's not the way it's meant to be. You are in charge of your narrative and your story, and you have a wonderful story. You just need to pay attention to the relevant revelation that's constantly unfolding in your life for you to uncover the wisdom and the purpose that you have. I want to thank you for listening, watching our podcast here at Always Thinking Community, ATC. And I want to remind you that you're not in it alone. Thank you.